The human colony of Arivos 9 rested beneath a pale blue sky, surrounded by strange glowing trees and quiet alien winds. Humans had lived there for 20 years now, building homes, farms, and trade centers. Life was peaceful, but not everyone lived in comfort. Some aliens, the native people called Scifi, lived on the edge of the human district. They had fragile bodies and shimmering, glass-like skin that reflected the light like water. Every night, when the city lights dimmed and drones floated on, their silent patrols, someone sneaked into Ethan Ward's storage shed. Ethan was a calm, patient man in his 30s. He worked as a logistics engineer, maintaining the transport drones that carried supplies across Arivos 9. He wasn't rich, but he was kind and well-respected. Still, for the past 2 weeks, his food crates had been mysteriously lighter every morning. At first, he thought it was just a miscount in the supply logs. Then, one night when he checked the security cam, he saw a shadow moving, a small, quick figure, clearly not human. The next morning, he looked over his supplies. A few packs of dried fruit, water capsules, and nutrient bars were missing again. But there was something strange this time. A faint trail of glowing dust near the back door. He touched it carefully. It shimmered under his fingers like moonlight. "It's not an animal," he whispered to himself. "Someone is stealing. But who?" Instead of calling security, Ethan decided to wait. The following night, he left one crate slightly open and hid behind a cargo stack. The moonlight slipped through the cracks of the metal walls. Hours passed quietly, and then he saw her. A small figure crawled through the side vent. A Scifi girl, no older than 14 by human guess. Her skin glowed faintly silver, and her eyes were large and bright like crystal pools. She looked around nervously before taking a few food packets and slipping them into a small bag made of woven leaves. Ethan could see the tremble in her hands. She moved fast, but her steps were careful, silent. She wasn't stealing for greed. It was survival. When she turned to leave, a small metal can rolled from her bag and hit the floor with a soft clang. She froze. Ethan stepped out slowly, raising his hands. "Hey, it's all right. I'm not going to hurt you." The alien girl's eyes widened. For a moment, she looked like she might run. Then she backed toward the vent but didn't climb out. "I'm not angry," Ethan said softly. "You've been taking food, haven't you?" She didn't answer, just stared at him with fear and confusion. Then, to his surprise, she said in broken human language, Sorry, need food. Mother, sick." Her voice was soft, almost musical, but full of worry. Ethan's expression softened. "Your mother's sick?" The girl nodded quickly, clutching her small bag tighter. "She can't move. No work, no food. Please, I go." Before he could reply, she darted back through the vent and vanished into the night. Ethan stood there, his heart heavy. He could have reported her to colony security. Stealing from human supply stores was a punishable act, even for aliens. But as he thought of her small, trembling hands and frightened eyes, he sighed deeply. "She's just a child," he murmured, "and her mother's sick." The next morning, Ethan decided to follow the faint trail of glowing dust again. It led him across the old part of the colony, past broken walls, silent machines, and dim streets that humans rarely entered. Eventually, he reached a ruined building half covered in vines. There, through a cracked wall, he saw her again. The alien girl knelt beside a weak, pale figure lying on a cloth mat. Her mother. The older Scifi woman's skin had lost its glow, turning dull and thin. She coughed weakly as the girl fed her small pieces of fruit from Ethan's supplies. Ethan didn't go inside. He just watched quietly, hidden behind a half-fallen pillar. He understood everything then. The girl wasn't a thief. She was a daughter trying to save her mother. That night, Ethan returned to his home and packed a small box with more food, medicine, and clean water. He wrote a simple note on a small piece of metal scrap. On it, he drew a few universal symbols that even aliens could understand. A circle for peace, a heart for care, and an arrow pointing toward the food. He left it near the back door where she usually entered. The next morning, the food and medicine were gone, but the metal scrap remained. Etched into its surface was a small symbol drawn in glowing alien ink, a spiral of gratitude. Ethan smiled softly. So you can write too, huh? Days passed. Each night he left supplies and each morning they were gone. Sometimes the girl left small signs in return, a flower, a polished stone, or a faint drawing on the metal floor. It became their silent conversation. Ethan found himself waiting each night, wondering if she'd come again. He didn't know her name, but in his mind he called her Lyra, after an ancient Earth constellation. But one evening, the routine broke. The food remained untouched. Ethan frowned. She didn't come. He waited another day, then another. Still nothing. Worry started to crawl inside his chest. Finally, he decided to go back to the old sector. The place was quiet. The wind howled through broken walls. When he reached the ruined building, he saw Lyra sitting outside, her head down. She looked weaker than before and her eyes were red. Lyra? Ethan said softly, not knowing if that was truly her name. The girl looked up, startled. You? Come here? I was worried, Ethan said, walking closer but keeping a gentle distance. You didn't take the food. Is your mother worse? Tears formed in her shining eyes. She. No eat. No breath well. Ethan took a deep breath. He wasn't a doctor, but he had access to medical kits from his work. I can help, he said firmly. I have medicine. It might help her breathe better. Lyra shook her head, frightened. Humans not come here. Soldiers take us. I'm not a soldier, Ethan replied. I just want to help. For a moment, silence filled the air. The girl's eyes met his, uncertain but desperate. Finally, she nodded once. Ethan stepped inside the dim shelter. The alien woman lay still, her breathing slow and shallow. He opened a small kit and sprayed a thin mist of oxygenated serum, adjusting the atmosphere around her. Slowly, her breathing became steadier. Lyra watched with wide eyes as her mother's color returned slightly. Ethan stood up and smiled. There, that should help her for now. Lyra whispered. Why? You help us? We steal your food. Ethan looked at her kindly. Because you needed it more than I did. For the first time, Lyra smiled. A small, shy smile full of warmth and relief. Ethan handed her another small pack of food. Take this. I'll bring more tomorrow. And medicine too. As he turned to leave, Lyra called out softly. Human. Name? He paused and smiled. Ethan. She repeated it slowly. Than. When he walked back to his home that night, the stars above Erebos 9 glowed like silver fireflies. Ethan looked up and whispered, You're safe now, little thief. He didn't know that this simple act of kindness would soon spread beyond their quiet corner of the colony and change the way aliens and humans saw each other forever. The next morning on Erebos 9, sunlight fell softly over the human colony. The air shimmered faintly, carrying the scent of metal and alien flowers. But Ethan Ward's mind wasn't on his work that day. He couldn't stop thinking about the small alien girl and her sick mother. Every image of her frightened eyes replayed in his mind. That evening, after finishing his shift at the drone bay, Ethan packed a larger bag, filled with medicine, water, and energy food packs. He even added a small blanket made from thermal fabric. He didn't know much about the Serenai species, but he hoped warmth would help her mother's weak body. When the night came, he walked again toward the edge of the colony, past the ruins and silent streets. The moonlight guided him to the same broken building. Lyra was waiting outside. This time she didn't run. You come again? She said softly, her voice almost surprised. Ethan smiled gently. I promised, didn't I? He raised the bag. More food, and medicine too. Her eyes glowed faintly with emotion. Mother. Little better today, she whispered. She breathed easier now. That's good, Ethan said with relief. She'll get stronger if we keep this up. He entered the shelter again, kneeling beside the alien woman. He used his scanner to check her pulse and temperature. It was still low, but better than before. Lyra watched silently as Ethan worked, her expression full of curiosity. She had never seen a human up close before, only stories told by her people. Most Scifi believed humans were cold and selfish. But this one, he was different. After giving the medicine, Ethan sat down on the floor beside her. The small room was quiet, except for the distant hum of machines from the colony far away. Lyra looked at him shyly. "Why, humans help? You no fear us." Ethan smiled. "Why should I fear someone who only wanted to save her mother?" She tilted her head, thinking. Humans strong. Many machines, many guns. Scifi weak? We hide. Ethan shook his head. Strength isn't only about weapons. Sometimes strength is just kindness. Lyra didn't fully understand the word, but she felt the warmth behind it. As days turned into weeks, Ethan continued to visit secretly every evening. He brought supplies, cleaned the shelter, and shared stories about Earth, the blue oceans, the tall mountains, and the gentle rain. Lyra listened with wonder, her eyes shining. In return, she shared stories about her world before humans arrived. How the Scifi used to live in glowing cities built inside the trees. How they sang to the stars and believed every light in the sky was a spirit watching over them. Their friendship grew quietly, like a small flower blooming in the cracks of stone. One evening, when Ethan arrived, he found Lyra waiting outside with something in her hands. It was a small crystal, smooth and glowing with soft blue light. "For you," she said, offering it to him. Ethan took it carefully. "It's beautiful." "What is it?" Lyra smiled shyly. "Heartstone. Scifi gift. You help us, I give you light. When you sad, this shine more." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. "Thank you, Lyra. I'll keep it safe." That night, as he returned home, he placed the glowing crystal on his desk. It filled the dark room with gentle blue light. He couldn't remember the last time something so small made him feel so peaceful, but the peace didn't last. The next day, rumors spread across the colony. Someone had seen a human engineer sneaking into the alien sector. Security was searching for trespassers, claiming a possible illegal exchange. Ethan knew what that meant. If they found Lyra and her mother, they would be taken away for investigation. He couldn't let that happen. That night he went earlier than usual. When he arrived, Lyra looked worried. "Many soldiers come near today," she whispered. "They search ruins." "I know," Ethan said. "We have to move your mother somewhere safe." She looked afraid. "Where?" "No place for Scifi in Human City." Ethan thought hard. "There's an old warehouse near the transport docks. It's sealed, but I have access codes. No one checks it anymore. You can stay there until it's safe." Lyra hesitated, but one look at her weak mother made her nod. "Okay, we trust you." Together, under the cover of night, they carried her mother through narrow passages and quiet alleys. Ethan used his clearance card to open hidden gates and maintenance tunnels. The journey was slow, but they made it safely to the abandoned warehouse. He set up blankets and small lights, making the place as comfortable as possible. "Here," Ethan said, handing Lyra a bottle of clean water. "Stay quiet. I'll bring more supplies tomorrow." Lyra looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You risk much." "Why?" Ethan smiled. "Because that's what humans do when someone needs help." She lowered her head. "Scifi say humans cold, but they wrong." Ethan chuckled softly. "Not all humans are perfect, but some try." For the next few days, Ethan kept visiting in secret. The alien woman's health continued to improve. Lyra began learning simple human words, and Ethan even taught her to write her name. One evening, she proudly showed him a shaky word written on a piece of metal. Lyra. He grinned. "Perfect. You're learning fast," Lyra laughed softly. "You teach good." But their quiet peace was once again interrupted. One night, while Ethan was helping Lyra prepare food, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the warehouse. Ethan froze. "Stay here," he whispered. He peeked outside and saw 2 colony guards scanning the area with drones. They were checking for unauthorized energy signatures. Ethan acted quickly. He walked out, pretending to be alone, holding his engineer's ID. "Evening, officers. What's the problem?" One guard frowned. "We detected non-human readings from this area. You seen anything unusual?" Ethan shook his head calmly. "This old place?" "Just machines humming. I'm running a diagnostic for energy leaks." The guards looked doubtful, but moved on after scanning his ID. As soon as they left, Ethan went back inside. His heart was racing, but Lyra and her mother were safe. Lyra looked at him with wide, thankful eyes. "You save again," she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. "Let's hope I don't have to keep doing it." A week later, Lyra's mother could finally stand on her own. She spoke a few weak words to Ethan, her voice trembling but grateful. "Human, help. Much. We live because you care." Ethan bowed his head slightly. "I'm glad you're better." Lyra's eyes sparkled as she looked at both of them. "Maybe. One day. Humans and Serenai not fear each other." Ethan nodded. "Maybe one day soon." When it was finally safe, he helped them move to a friendly alien district where they could start a new life without hiding. Before leaving, Lyra hugged him gently. Her glowing hands shimmered softly against his arm. "Thank you, Ethan," she said. "You give us hope." He smiled warmly. "Just promise me one thing. Don't stop believing in kindness." "Even when the world seems cold," she nodded. Her eyes bright with tears, then with one last look, she and her mother disappeared into the quiet streets, blending into the lights of the alien district. Months later, Ethan returned to his usual work. Life seemed normal again. But sometimes, when he looked at the small glowing crystal on his desk, the one Lyra had given him, he felt a deep warmth inside. And on some nights, when the wind was just right, he could hear soft humming carried from the alien quarters. A familiar melody Lyra once sang about stars and hope. He smiled every time he heard it, because he knew somewhere out there, an alien girl and her mother were alive, safe, and free, thanks to one human who chose compassion over fear. And that was what made humanity special. Not their strength, not their weapons, but their heart.